Hi everyone, Darren Hunter here with the Outsourced PM podcast show. Michael, haven't we got quite a library of knowledge now that's been banked up? I mean, I'm certainly getting a lot of good feedback. How about you?
Yeah, I can't believe that we're over 20 episodes in the podcast, pushing up to 30. It's fantastic. Feedback has been amazing. I get people calling saying, I've listened to every one of your podcasts, and we don't think about how many people this reaches and touches.
It's a great toolbox, isn't it? I mean, podcasts are a great platform to educate people while they're out driving in between appointments or out walking at the gym or whatever. And it's a great way to connect with us too. So, today, Michael, I think we want to dissect the cost of and the true cost of employing someone in the office as opposed to the true cost of getting those same tasks done by a virtual assistant, and really examining the differences there so we can get a true perspective of how much benefit a virtual assistant can bring to your office. But firstly, Michael, hasn't the world changed, since January 2020, or I should say from 2020 to now, the world has changed. And what are you hearing out there again? What's the constant message you're getting from bosses around getting quality staff?
I hear constantly that it's impossible to find good quality staff, and those that are just coming into the real estate marketplace with no experience are demanding what experienced property managers were asking for. And we're seeing experienced property managers leave the industry because they've just had enough. Yep. They're burnt out, they're overworked, and it is just a vicious cycle out there.
The staffing crisis is getting worse. It's just getting harder and harder and harder. And I guess, Michael, up till now, bosses have had the luxury of the traditional model and mindset that we employ property manager assistants, we employ property managers. Of course, they all need licensing, all of that sort of thing. They are boots on the ground in the office. Most, if not all, need to be having access to a card and be going out doing inspections, rah-de-rah-de-rah. But we've already, understand, and everyone can, agree that that model is greatly under pressure. So what we want to do today, with a motive, simply to show you that, the world has changed. Staffing crisis is just getting worse. But also, Michael, haven't we seen a digital revolution? There's all sorts of revolutions that have happened over the last few hundred years. The printing press, that brought a revolution. The telegraph cable, that brought a revolution. The railway brought a revolution. And the internet brought a revolution. And so did COVID. And it really opened a lot of business owners' mind that tasks don't necessarily have to be done at an office location.
Yeah, and you don't want to kind of have everyone eat humble pie at the end of the day either. But the amount of property managers pre-COVID that said, I'm not going to do video, I'm not going to do virtual tours, I'm not going to automate how we do application processing. Like all these people that were firmly saying, I will not change, bang, COVID hit. And now people aren't doing reference checks because it's all automated. They're doing videos and virtual tours because it saves them time. All these processes and automations are coming in because they're finding that they want to be focusing on what matters, which, it's customer service and income producing tasks. But pre-COVID to now, what a change.
And tasks can be done from anywhere in the world now. So bosses, your employment footprint in your office can be so much less now with the digital technology that we have today. And so we just want to show you, the actual cost of employing and keeping that traditional model, as opposed to looking at a model of having boots on the ground, much less, of course, and having it backed up by a virtual assistant or a team of virtual assistants that can do the same tasks from anywhere in the world. So, Michael, let's just start with the cost of a traditional employee, which is a property manager, a person that's going to be managing the properties and doing all the inspections and doing all the application processing and loading, all the marketing and dealing with owners and tenants and so forth. Let's just go to, look at what is the actual base cost, the salary these days of a property manager.
Yeah, I think if you were to go through the recruitment websites like Indeed, Talent, Seek, and you look at what everyone's offering, I would say at a very minimum, the average across the country would be about $75,000 per annum But I think for the purpose of this, let's just go with an easy $70,000 as an average salary, because we have seen inexperienced people even ask for more in different marketplaces. Now, I know that there are some people that pay less or they're juniors and so on, but we're taking the industry average for this one.
Yeah, and we're seeing in Perth, 90 grand and all of that sort of thing. And people, as this staffing crisis gets worse, that number is going to get higher and higher as quality experienced property managers are really going to become very, very hard to get, if not impossible. So it really does force us to change this traditional model and relook at it and see if there's a different way that we can do this. So, okay, so Michael, we've got an average of 75,000, and I'm going to keep a tally here as we go. So that's the actual base. Now, there are two types of expenses that we're going to have to add on top of that. It's not just 75,000. So there's also the add-ons to that cost, but also the operational expenses. But before we get into the add-ons and the operational, Michael, what if the boss wants to hire a recruitment agency to go and find that position? What's that cost?
Yeah, I mean, that could be somewhere between 10 and 20% of the overall annual salary of that particular team member. So if you're looking at, $75,000, potentially you're looking at $10 to $15,000 just paying them a fee.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen reports that it could cost people up to $23,000 to go through the recruitment process if they outsource that to a recruitment agency.
Yep.
And the internal costs of recruiting someone could be between, $3,000 and $10,000, depending on the time involved, the application, all going through all the interviews and so on. It can be really costly. One of the things, though, Darren, we speak to a lot of agencies across the world. And, when they're looking at either going down the outsourcing route or looking to hire someone physical, most of the feedback is they're looking to hire someone physical because they like to feel and touch like their computers, and they like to see someone sitting at a desk in their office. But that's an expensive thought process, right? Like, we'll go through this and we'll show real costs. What I gather when I speak to so many business owners, they don't understand the true cost of employing someone physical, right? That they don't.
And we agree they have to do it. But again, the world has changed, the pressure is on, and we've got to relook at our model. Do all the tasks have to be done by someone in the office, boots on the ground? Obviously, we're saying, no, you don't. And we're just showing you that cost there to give you an alternate perspective. Now, so moving on, Michael, so we've got a base of 75,000 as an average. Yes, there are some places that charge less than that. Or can get away with less than that, and there are places that are charging more than that. But let's just use a middle of the road of 75 for a salary. But then we've got, you said if they use a recruiter, it could be 10, maybe 15,000, maybe less than 10 on recruitment agency costs. Hopefully they get you a quality employee, not a bad one. And okay, so put that aside. What are the add-on costs to that position? So we're not talking operational costs. What are the add-on costs that we've now got to factor in for that position?
Yeah, so like we'll reference them as statutory costs, right? The things that you just cannot avoid having an employee. So one, you'll be looking at the superannuation. So, that keeps pushing up. Let's use 9.5% as a benchmark there. So on 75,000, you're looking at $7,125, right?
Yep.
Just on super. So that is an additional cost to the 75 grand.
All right. So now we're up to 82,125.
Okay. Yep. Big difference, isn't it?
Yep.
Then you got workers' comp.
Yep.
Like, unless you're the sole employer, you can't avoid that.
Yeah. It's about $1,200 a year.
That's $990 on 75. So it's about 1.3% roughly. So call it $1,000.
Okay, so we're up to 83,192. Okay, cool.
And you've got go for it.
You got bonuses as well, right?
Haven't even touched that yet. You look at annual leave. Annual leave is about $1,000. Annual leave loading is about $1,000 a year.
Okay, so up to 84,192.
And then you've got a silent one. This is the long service leave, which people don't really think too much about until it hits them, especially those smaller to medium-sized businesses. That's about $890. So call it $900 a year based on that salary.
Okay. Well, I'm going to leave just for the sake of the exercise, because I don't want anyone accusing us when we get to this final shocking figure that we're going to show you what you're actually paying per hour altogether. Let's just go, just swing on to the conservative side. So we'll leave that one out for now.
All right, no problem. Now, depending on the size of the business, payroll tax may be applicable. You are looking at about $4,000 just in payroll tax to have that person, depending on, on the size of the business. But if you have payroll tax, you're looking at about another $4,000, right? These are just statutory costs.
Yeah. I'm going to leave that one off too, because I know probably a lot of the businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, probably don't have payroll tax. So
no, that's fine. Even when you leave that off, Darren, it is a starting figure.
Yep.
So then from there, you're looking at those other costs, right? The operational costs.
Yep. So we're already up to 84,192, but wait, there's more. So there's the actual cost to have them in the building and have them operating the position. So let's just, because the employee is not going to pay for that. So let's go through those, Michael.
Yeah. Now I think we have to kind of err on the side of caution here and not go too crazy with figures, but we want to go through what some practical averages would be. So the first thing that you should factor in is training. Each team member needs training throughout the year. Obviously, if you're not training your team members and they stay the same, they're not growing, not a good investment to the business. So you're looking at about $1,500 a year just on training. We know companies that spend a lot more on each team member in training, but let's just say $1,500 average per year on training.
What if a boss has got, here's your desk, here's your phone, good luck, you're on your own? What if they use that as their training model?
Yeah, I mean, people are going directly into sales. I see that, but we're kind of talking about property management, right, Darren? Like this isn't some joke. You're trying to avoid burnout.
Okay. So let's just say there's $1,500 in training, but you also pointed out, what if they are going to, it is First National, professionals, or Ray White state-based conference? What about the costs to send them along to that event?
Yeah, I mean, that's not cheap, right? So I guess for like things like travel, you'd say as an average agency per person would be allocating about $1,300 a year on travel, a couple of nights accommodation and a return airfare across the country. Again, depending on how many conferences you go to, but you're right, those big events, they cost money. So not just the getting them there and back, but staging it. We know, I mean, from running events, that's several hundreds of dollars per person.
Yeah. So how much should I add for that? 500?
Travel's about 1,300. Training 1,500.
Yeah. Okay. So already for the additional operational costs, we're looking at 2,800. So what's next?
So we'd have amenities. So amenities, would be that, there are costs to turn the lights on, gas, water.
Yeah.
And again, you're breaking it down per person. It's about $50 a year per person, roughly. Could be more, could be less, but so $600 per year.
What about mobile phone?
Mobile's about $500 a year on average per person.
So with amenities, that include internet?
Yeah, internet, yeah, share of internet.
And mobile phone. So let's say that's another 1,100. So already now we're at $3,900 and nearly at $4,000 there.
So the next thing is uniform allowances. Some companies, have you wear like a blazer or a shirt or a tie or something that you need to clean throughout the year. But you're looking about $500 per annum on uniform. All
right. So we'll add that in. So that's now we're up to $4,400. Okay.
And then you've got, you're looking at rent. So even if you own the building, most places pay rent to the ownership entity. You're looking about $450 a year as a base, just for the person sitting on a chair, right? Just sitting on a chair.
Okay, so we're nearly at 5,000. That's 4,850.
Now, computer and spec equipment throughout the year. This isn't talking about an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy or anything. This is, computer essentials. You're about $800 a year. Now, that's assuming that they're using a computer that's already provided. If you're going out and spending new money to buy another computer for that team member, then, you're looking between $1,000 to $2,000. But let's just kind of talk about upgrades and system.
But it's not just a computer on the desk, whether it's a laptop or a desktop, iPad as well, because they're out doing inspections, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't even factored that into this, getting the iPad, which most people have now, and that's you're upgrading that every 2 years. So what would you apportion
So
to that?
I would be
$500 a year?
putting down $500 for the hang on, it could probably be a basic iPad. A brand new one is $500 or $600 basic, not the good ones, the basic one. And the bosses are probably going to go for basic. So $500 for that. If it's $500 allowance, because we've done this ourselves at IGT, so it's a $500 equipment cost a year to get reasonable equipment replaced on a reasonable number of occasions. I know a lot of bosses just make sure their property managers are running dinosaurs, which makes the job a lot harder. So let's say there is, $250 for an iPad a year. And then because they're going to use it, and then $500. So let's say $750 for computer.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. So right now, 4850 plus 750, we're now up to 5,600. What else, Michael?
Then you got subscriptions to kind of go on the iPad and go on the computer, and you've got your real estate software, you've got your email software, your online storage, or even your in-office mega storage and data room.
But you got your Zoom, you got those subscriptions. It all adds up, doesn't it? Because everything's gone cloud-based. So therefore, they've gone to the software as a service model where you pay a monthly fee. Zoom's doing it, whether it's you're with Property Tree, Property Me, Console Cloud, all of those have those monthly costs. What would be a fair estimate to add all those up, Michael?
Yeah, it's about $1,200 a year.
$1,200 a year. That would include your Microsoft 365 or whatever platforms you're using as well. So about $1,200 a year. Okay, so right now we're up to $6,800.
Now, I see all the time on ads on Facebook, on Seek, and everything saying we have a great company to work for. We give you the phone, we give you training. What they also mentioned, Darren, is we give you a car or a car allowance.
Mm-hmm.
And the average, this is average. I'd probably say it's on the lower side because I see people getting paid a lot more. But you'd allocate about $5,000 for someone that has to be on the road. That's just like, on the car. If you're paying repayments on $500 a month on a car repayment, and then you got fuel costs.
Fuel's huge.
So, you're probably looking about $6,500 for vehicle costs.
So let's just add $6,500 to that. Now we're already up to $13,300 just for operational.
Yeah, it's
yeah. All right. Any more to add on there, Michael?
That'd be a good offer, a good base to start. Okay. Where you start to add on that is when you're upgrading or getting furniture. All right, when you're starting to add other equipment on there. So we had, Darren, what's the gadget called that measures the rooms? Not the tape measure, but the automated one. You put on the wall and it kind of says it's 3 meters to that wall. That's
the geeky stuff that you buy.
Yeah, So I'll leave that out because that's the geeky stuff.
All right. So this is where we've got to. So with a base of salary plus all the salary add-ons for the position, that was $84,192, plus operational expenses, the cost to have boots on the ground in the office is $13,300. All up, that comes to $97,492. So why don't we just say $97,500. So let's just now calculate what that hourly rate is. Now, how many hours of normal work? We know property managers work above the normal and they do a lot of unpaid hours, unfortunately, but let's just go with the normal. That's per year. What is some of the math that we can do to get that to an hourly rate, Michael?
37.5 hours a week, 260 working days a year, so 7.5 hours a day.
So 7.5 hours a day. How many days was that? 260? 260. So that's not including weekends, right? But it is including public holidays. Is that correct? So 260 days a year times by 7.5 comes to 1,950 working paid hours in a year. Of course, we can argue that, property managers do a lot more than that and don't get paid, but let's go with 1,950. So here is the magic number. Let's just go with Now, 1950, that's the hours. So we've got 97,500 divided by 1950 working hours in a year. Guess what the number is, Michael? Exactly $50.
Oh, you're kidding.
50.00. So it's a round number. We're going to work with round numbers anyway. $50 an hour. So, okay, here is a challenge, everybody. Now that you can see that your boots on the ground and in the staffing crisis, using a traditional mindset, $50 an hour, let's now break this down, because everyone, what a virtual assistant can do and what you think they can actually do, there's a huge difference. So what we want to do is get you to adjust your mindset around what virtual assistants can actually do. And if you're able to get a virtual assistant to do a task at a third of the cost of what it's costing you for boots on the ground, then you'd be dumb not to do it, right? You just got to be able to think and be willing to think differently. So, Michael, you managed 650 properties in Melbourne with 1.5 staff on the ground, all right? The boots on the ground that were costing you probably $50 an hour. But yet you had, I think you had 3 virtual assistants doing the other work. Let's just go through, and everyone, we're about to just fire off some typical things that virtual assistants should be doing and not your expensive staff doing them. And this list you can actually get by going to teamsbydesigntasks.com. That's teamsbydesigntasks.com for up to 30 things you'd be getting a virtual assistant to do and not your expensive boots on the ground to do. So, Michael, what are typically some of those things that people would find on that list?
So first thing everyone needs to do is write down all the tasks that are physical and non-physical, okay? So obviously a virtual assistant can't get in the car, can't turn up and meet an owner. So once you work out what are the non-physical tasks, then you need to break down from that, what are the customer service income producing tasks? So speaking with your owners, building new business, relationship based there. What I did was, of those non-physical tasks, I broke them into another list of what is tenant and tradesperson and what is owner. And I focused on what is tenant related tasks and tradie tasks. So handling all the inquiries about tenants and inquiring about properties. Maintenance was basically 80% done by the VA, and then there was that escalation of 2 in every 10 you'd have to have some involvement with. Arrears, leases, lease renewals, the onboarding of the tenant, entering in all the tenancy details, invoices, social media, the video editing, running my YouTube, just handling all the tradesperson inquiries. And that could be a tradie trying to get access to a property, could be chasing the tradesperson up for the invoice, calling the tenant after the job's been done to make sure that they're happy with everything and do they need anything else. And then, putting that into a report and letting the property manager know. Our property manager just had to love the owner. Update the owner, love them, meet them for coffee, and just be proactive rather than reactive. And they had time to do that.
Yep.
So, make that task list, work out what's physical, non-physical, work out what's income producing and customer service, and see what's left.
So I think for bosses out there, you might be thinking, but I've got 3 property managers. I'm not going to sack any of them. And no, we don't want you to. But what if one does resign? It's very likely going to happen probably within the next 6 to 8 months. One of those people is probably going to leave. And it's at that point that you need to really get in contact with Michael and just work through what can you do to restructure. So you're not then going to go and spend another $97,000 over the next 12 months. You could be spending a third of that. And you just need direction and help and having your mindset cracked open to what is actually possible. And should you do that, you might be saving yourself, $60,000 a year, which I'm sure that you would find quite handy if you're able to simply look at a new way of doing it. So, Michael, for people to get in contact with you, we just encourage people to get in contact with Michael, have a chat about what restructuring does look like, how that's possible, and what are the typical tasks that you could be outsourcing, or even if you just wanted to look at taking or getting a virtual assistant on board right now, what's the best way to get in contact?
Yeah, so just go to teamsbydesign.com, contact us, and then just make an inquiry there, and we'll book a time in to have a catch up. See what you need in your business, and if we can help, we'll point you in the right direction.
Yep. So don't forget, up to 80% of those tasks can be done by a virtual assistant. You don't have to be paying that $50 an hour. Now, Michael, just with the cost, people think, oh, what is the actual cost of a virtual assistant? You said you were looking at Upwork. What is the average costs on there?
Yeah, I mean, look, it varies across the globe, right? But if you're looking at Upwork, which is a reputable freelancing website, and they deal in US dollars, they say average is $13 an hour for a virtual assistant. Again, take that with a grain of salt, because with Teams by Design, we're quite bespoke. We'll actually work out exactly what you need, find the right type of person. It's like we say, Darren, you're not going to find a unicorn that can do your creative, your admin, and your invoices, finances. So we work out people's strengths, how they can be applied to your tasks, and if you need to have a different structured team. There's not one size fits all, and we appreciate that. So it's a good example, Upwork, but we'll do something quite bespoke for you.
And Michael, I think it's important for everyone to understand that you've got to have a management company behind you, and the right one as well. Of course, with Teams by Design, their focus is property management. We encourage you to go back into the episodes that we've done already, have a look at the biggest mistakes that management companies make. Also, the big mistakes of doing it yourself. You might think, well, I can save a lot of money by getting my own virtual assistant. Well, there's a lot of issues and problems in the way. And just to the fact that there's another podcast, Michael, of 11 different checkpoints you guys go through with hiring, you can show how complex the task can actually be. So just encourage you to go and have a look through the library of the episodes that we've already done, but also get in contact with Michael, have a chat about how restructuring can work in your business. Michael is actually an expert with team restructuring, whether you're using virtual assistants or not. That is what we do. So, get in contact with us. But Michael, I think another really good episode there.
Yeah, I mean, even when we talk about it again in the podcast, it still surprises me just how much the true costs are of having an employee.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've nailed that one. We'll add it to the toolbox, everyone. Don't forget, go to teamsbydesigntasks.com for the 30 different tasks that you can definitely outsource to virtual assistants in your business. And take care, everyone.